Now, here's the reality. The fact that bail was denied and with the explanation that the judge gave, there is only one possible scenario for why. And it goes beyond just someone made a phone call, okay? There's another case coming. There's another indictment coming. There has to be. Otherwise, doesn't make any sense. And I'll explain to you exactly why right now, all right? So I went live immediately upon finding out that Diddy had had his bail tonight, and what you got in that live stream, if you watched it, was just my immediate thoughts, based on basically only the fact that I found out that they had denied his bail after obviously understanding what he had been convicted of. So I've had, I don't know, 16 hours to sit and actually think a lot about this, about why I feel the way that I do, and why I believe that I have like good thoughts here to share with everybody to make people understand why or how
and no
I think
longer
people
has
should
a
be looking
voice
at
who
this.
will pursue justice for
now,
her
when I'm going to do a
accusation.
video about something
As
that
of
I
the
know a
indictment
lot of my
against
viewers
Diddy,
will disagree
no
with,
expansion of the
I always
investigation,
feel like I need
no
like,
isolation orders,
I always feel
no
like I need
equipment
to
access,
try to connect
no
with
suspension
everybody
of
who's
attorney
watching,
communication.
so that it's not just the people who agree with me that are like, yeah. It's like really honestly, I'm trying to talk more to the people who feel another way about it, so that you can at least, you don't need to necessarily come out of this thing agreeing with me, but I just want you to understand where I'm coming from, because bottom line is, I've told you this, I've seen a video of this man beating up a girl. Like, dude, I don't have sympathy for him, and you know what happens to him now. Obviously, if they get, if it turned out the only thing he's ever done is like hit women and they were like, oh, we're going to give him the electric chair, I might be like, whoa, 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 whoa. Okay. Like, hang on, hang on, hang on. Now if he did this every single day, it was a constant thing, and he was constantly hurting people. I'm like, the only thing this guy exists to do is to hurt people. Sure, whatever. But that's not what I'm talking about. Mostly what I'm telling you is like, I don't have sympathy for Diddy specifically. That is not where any of this comes from. Where this comes from is an understanding of how societies are supposed to function, and where we get into extremely, extremely dicey territory. Okay, I actually think this is that big of a deal. Okay, I think this is that big of a deal because it's the exact same mechanism that was applied very recently within the last few years, which led to an outcome in the most recent election, which has had absolutely thermonuclear impact across the globe, right? I think it's pretty, fair to say that had the election gone the other way, we would be in a very different world right now. Okay, obviously there are a lot of people who think that be better, and most of us think that it would not be better. But it's neither here nor there, okay? Because here is what's actually going on. So Diddy gets convicted of what the Mann Act, which means transporting someone across state lines for the purpose of prostitution. Okay, he gets acquitted of sex trafficking. He gets acquitted of RICO racketeering. So bottom line is, right, when he was being held absent bail, it was because he was facing life in prison. It was because he was a flight risk. He's this incredibly wealthy person and all of that stuff. And supposedly he might be tampering with witnesses. That's what they said. Okay, now I've said from the beginning that if you're not paying attention to why what the origin of this case actually is, then you can't understand what you're really looking at, right? Because the origin of this case, no one is going to convince me that I'm wrong. Now, I'm not saying I know this for 1,000% certain, but what I'm saying is if you put my hand on the table and you're like, all right, this is like the scene in Casino and we're going to break all your fingers in your hand if you're wrong, I would immediately say, this is happening because of what happened between Diddy and Daddio. And me crying is happening because you haven't subscribed to my channel and you haven't liked this video yet. Okay, Diddy bit the hand that fed him in a way that you do not. Okay, what these people are, these BlackRock guys, Vanguard guys, and I feel like I say these things and people some people might not really understand what we're saying.
present,
We're not just
and no
talking
longer
about
has a
these
voice
people
who will
are
pursue justice
wealthy,
for her
you know, like they're
accusation.
not wealthier than
As of
Diddy.
the taken against Diddy,
These groups,
no
Vanguard
expansion
and
of the
BlackRock,
investigation,
own 95%
no isolation orders,
of like
no
the Fortune
equipment access,
500 companies
no suspension of attorney communication.
in the world. They own everything. Okay? Like they own everything. Now, I'm not saying they own it outright, but they are, you know, the incredibly large shareholders in all of the biggest companies in the world. Okay? They run everything. Okay? Everything. If you own 10% of a Fortune 500 company, the influence that you have over that organization, you can't even exaggerate. I mean, like, you can't do anything without their say so. Okay? They have voting rights, all of that stuff. They're always on the board. They're always on the board of these companies. And they're kingmakers. Okay? That is what they are. That is why you see such consistent opinions from people who are in Hollywood, who are musical, you know, music artists, who like where you see, you're like, where is someone who's willing to say this thing? That seems very obvious, like as an example, that women should not be competing against men in sports. Like where were all of the bigwig people just coming out against this that could have shut this down in 1 second? You know, like where are all the big entertainers? They all have brains, and the reason why none of them say it is because they don't want to bite the hand that feeds them. It's the reason that they you know, none of them came out against, you know, these mandates. None of them came out against, you know, this thing. None of them, right? And you're like, where are they? There's no way that there's none of them who don't, you know, none of them have questions about this. It's because they don't want to step out of line with those guys, because those guys own Pfizer. Those guys own Madna. Those guys own the entire process. Okay? We're talking about the exact same people, and those guys own Diddy, and they made Diddy into a king. All right? Bottom line, like, Diddy was made by these people, and Diddy had been a good partner to them throughout the last 25, 30 years, however long they had been in this partnership. Okay, so if you guys remember Ciroc vodka, we're going to go over this really, really quickly so we are all on the same page about what just happened yesterday. Okay, Diddy had made something. He made hundreds of millions of dollars through his partnership with Ciroc. Okay, and it was a revenue share. They had this vodka that wasn't doing very well. They put Diddy on. They're like, I mean, we don't know what to do with this thing. You know, we'll split profit, any profits that are generated above what we're doing right now. We'll split with you, right? It was like a throwaway thing because they're like, whatever, it's all upside for us. And Diddy crushed it so hard with that partnership that he ended up making hundreds of millions of dollars. They enabled that. Okay, they are the ones who enabled that. They get into a second partnership with him, but this time they co-own a tequila brand. Whatever, the details don't matter. Diddy gets upset with them. Okay, Diddy is a $100 billion company. He says, whatever, blah, blah, blah. He writes to them, starts threatening them. He wants $100 million from them, or else, blah, 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 blah. Whatever, details, not really super relevant for this. He says, I'm going to cry racism, and I'm going to burn the house down. Okay, now I could get into why he said that. It's irrelevant. And it was still a very dishonest, is when what could be more dishonest than calling a company that has made a black man into a billionaire. Okay, that black man, he's a billionaire black man, and you're threatening to call them racist. What could be more dishonest than that?
And no
then
longer
he
has a
actually
voice
did it,
who will
and
pursue
he cost the
justice for her
company
accusation.
$22 billion
As of the
in
taken
market
against Diddy,
value. Then
no
they get
expansion
into
of the
this
investigation,
lawsuit. They settle
no
it
isolation
January
orders,
2024,
no
and
equipment
his house
access,
gets
no
raided
suspension of
3
attorney
months later.
communication.
Okay, this is the direct result of that, in my opinion. No one's going to convince me otherwise. And now we find out what the outcome is. Because bottom line is, okay, that his bail being denied think about it like this, dude. The judge said this to him when he was, like when he got to the, when he like the verdicts were read. The judge said, I assume that Mr. Combs doesn't want to go back to MDC Brooklyn. So he's intending on letting him go. Okay, then this is what happens. Okay, so let's talk about this. Combs has been denied bail after the verdict in his sex trafficking case. And here's how he took the news. According to NBC News reporters in the courtroom, Combs appeared, quote, deflated, as his hopes of going home were seemingly dashed as his lawyers attempted to convince Judge Aaron Subramanian to release their client ahead of his sentencing. In his ruling, Subramanian cited Combs' years-long pattern of violence as a reason for him to remain behind bars, adding that he continues to be a danger to others and unable to follow the law, arguing that Combs, who pleaded not guilty to sex trafficking, racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, as well as transportation to engage in prostitution, was acquitted on the three most serious charges of sex trafficking and racketeering, and only convicted of prostitution-related offenses. His defense attorney Mark Agnafilo insisted he should be released on appropriate conditions. As Agnafilo outlined, Combs would be willing to put up a $1 million cash bond, co-signed by his mom Janice Combs, his sister Keisha Combs, and Sarah Chapman, the mother of Combs' eldest daughter Chance Combs, and have no access to his private plane, which is currently grounded in Maui. He also agreed to surrender his passport, undergo drug testing, and restrict travel to areas of New York, Florida, and California as necessary to attend court and meet with lawyers. According to NBC News, Combs was bottom line. Here's the bottom line. Okay, when the judge says that the reason he's not letting him out is because he has proven that he is a violent threat to others, that he has shown himself to be incapable of following the law. Yada. The reason that I can confidently say that someone stepped in and told the judge to not let him out is because the judge knows how the court system works. He knows how the legal system works. Okay, Diddy was not convicted of any violent crimes. He was acquitted of the violent crimes. Okay, he is not facing charges from any violent crimes. He has nothing as it relates to the legal system related to violence pending. Okay, now, is there a superseding indictment that's coming down the pipe? That's the only thing that I can think of. The only thing that could possibly explain what has happened is that there is a forthcoming superseding indictment that the judge knows about. That is my current theory. Okay, because the opposite, the alternative makes no sense. Okay, the alternative makes no sense. I mean, honestly, I'm actually thinking about this right now. Here are your only two options. Your only two options are the big boys called him, and he said, don't let him out, because they wanted to bury him
and no
under
longer
the jail.
has a voice who
And
will
you can
pursue
rest
justice
assured
for her
that he is
accusation.
going to get a harsh
As of the
sentence.
taken against Diddy,
Now, a very
no
harsh
expansion
sentence.
of the
And you know
investigation,
and
no
again, this is
isolation
all
orders,
because this is
no
coming-
equipment access,
Oh, my play
no
with
suspension
matches.
of attorney
That's
communication.
me and my wife's show. You should go follow that. The link is in the description. We actually just did a show about this also, okay? But the bottom line is this. I mean, it's indefensible. It's indefensible to keep him locked up awaiting sentences. And you know when his sentencing is going to happen. October, July, August, September, October. So you're talking another 3.5 months in prison. For what? In jail. For what? Because an escort flew across the country to have sex with a hard 10. You know, everybody involved is a willing participant. According to the jury. The jury already heard this case, and they determined, okay, that they were willing participants, which means there are no victims here. None. These are victimless crimes. So how can you possibly justify it? Okay, so either they called and they were like, lock him up. Okay, like keep him in jail, and the judge did it, or there is a forthcoming superseding indictment that is going to be much more a lot more violent stuff coming, a lot of others, which is not even close to impossible, not even remotely close to impossible. And as a matter of fact, that is, as of this moment, hypothesis. I can't, like I literally just got there right now. Okay, so when you think about the fact, when you really get into the weeds of this thing and you think about like what was in this case and what wasn't, right? Like what was in this case and what wasn't. There are all these crazy accusations that Diddy has, right? All these things that are all over the place. And the only thing involved in this was two of his ex-girlfriends. That those are the supposed victims, two of his ex-girlfriends. Think about all the things that we've heard he's accused of. We heard he shot a guy. We heard he had Tupac murdered. We heard that he has been grabbing people all over the place. We heard he's been drugging people all over the place. We heard about kids at his party. None of that stuff involved in this trial. The only thing that makes any sense is that there is a forthcoming superseding indictment that is going to include a lot of that stuff, because it's not like he was acquitted of those things. They didn't try him for those things. They didn't indict him for those things. So as of now, what my hypothesis is that there is another case coming. And while he thinks he beat this case, he didn't beat, he's being held. And before he even gets sentenced for this one, they're going to indict him on something else. Because, again, bottom line, if these guys want you got, if they want you got, you're getting got, dude. Okay, like they did this trial. Think about this. This whole trial was invented out of nothing. Like literally out of nothing. I mean, yeah, you have the video of him beating up Cassie for sure. But I mean, like in terms of sex trafficking, it was absurd, ludicrous. And you're telling me that there are no other cases that they could make out of all these other people who are willing to testify against him. There's tons of people who despise him that would testify against him in 1 second. You know what I mean? So the reality is, like, now, as of this moment, if I had to bet on what's coming for Puff, it's another case.
Present,
it's another case,
and no longer
and
has a
another
voice
case
who will pursue justice
that
for
will
her
drop on
accusation.
him before October,
As of the
when
taken
he's
against
sentenced.
Diddy,
So
no expansion
those
of the
are my
investigation,
honest thoughts,
no
dude.
isolation
I mean,
orders,
honestly,
no
I
equipment
think
access,
that's what's
no suspension of attorney
happening.
communication.
Because, and if not, even still, he's still going to get, I mean, he could face up to 10 years in prison for each count of the Mann Act, which is absurd. I mean, that is so crazy. I want you to seriously think about this. Okay, if you okay, let's say guy, right, or girls, whatever. Like, let's say you're single and you're going to Las Vegas and you have a lot of money and you're like, man, you know what would be great is if I don't feel like making a whole thing. I don't want to go to the clubs and like try to meet a girl or whatever. I just want to know for sure that I'm going to have a beautiful woman to spend the night with while I'm there. That's all I want, dude. And so you look through whatever sources that you have. You go on the internet or you call somebody who knows a service or whatever. And you look, you go online and you look at the website and it's a girl who's an escort. And she's like, here are my pictures. Here are my rates. And you call her and you're like, so yeah, I'm coming into town. What I would love to do is, I would like to do like an overnight. Okay, that's 7,000. It's like, okay, cool. Like that's cool. Let's do that. And, I guess so. I'll call you when I get there. Yeah, call me when you get there. We'll stay planned for whatever. You fly to well, no, I take that back. They would need to come to you. So you're like, I'll be in Las Vegas and that person's in Scottsdale. And so you go to Vegas, you fly them from Scottsdale and they're going to spend the night with you in Las Vegas. You guys are obviously planning to have sex with each other. And like, you're telling me that you deserve 10 years in prison for that. Who's the victim? Like, who's the victim there? Why would you possibly deserve 10 years in prison for that? You're not cheating on anyone. Not that that is illegal anyway, but you are participating in a completely willing exchange of goods and services. This is what this person does for a living. It's a beautiful girl. You're obviously a wealthy person. If you're willing to spend that amount of money for one night with a girl, everybody's happy. Everybody walks away happy. Why on earth would we take a person like that? Because I feel like people don't think that it's us doing this, okay? Like, it's us when you like, oh, they're going to put them in prison. It's not them putting them in prison. It's us putting them in prison. We are the ones who set the rules, okay? Like, collectively. Does that make sense? Is that a worthwhile time of art? Is that a worthwhile use of our legal system? Some rich guy wants to hire some beautiful girl who's down to go hang out and have sex with a rich guy for that amount of money. Like, that's exactly what this is, except it's even worse because it's a dude that's getting hired. It's absurd. Okay, there's no reason that he should be in jail unless he is facing another charge, which is highly likely. Anyway, that's what I got for this video. I love you guys.